In this video I show you how to add trouser cuffs or turnups or PTUs, however you like to call them, to your bespoke trousers. This video is a follow-on from my original trouser construction series. You ought to have a pretty firm understanding of my method of making bespoke trousers before this guide might become useful to you. And of course you can find my complete series in the description. What might be helpful to note about this video and this trouser is that I didn't put any inlay on the outside leg. Hence, it's going to look a little bit different when I put them together and I line up the outside legs flush rather than one side up to the mark stitches. But if this video is useful to you, or if you're just a big fan of trouser cuffs, don't forget to press the like button. Chalking out the trouser pattern, we add the balance points and inlays as it pleases us. For the cuffs or turnups at the hem, we also need to add more inlay. First, make a line with the desired width of your cuff, 4 cm for me, from the hem. Then another width of your cuff, and then add the inlay below that, at least 5 cm. For the side seams of the hem, we need to flare out slightly to the first line, inwards slightly to the second, then back out to the inlay, like normal. This on both sides. This is identical on the back trouser as well. And with the inlay, we don't need to bother making it follow the same curve, flare it out all the way to the bottom of the inlay, doesn't really matter. I don't have inlay on the outside leg, so I'm just leaving it. Cut it out, just follow your chalk markings like usual. When we mark stitch, we don't need to mark anything else specific on the front, but a stitch on the inlay would be useful for pressing in the crease. On the back trouser, however, we mark the side seams, which should make a mark at the point of the hem, the first 4 cm line, the second 4 cm line, and one in the inlay. This way we know where to change direction on the machine when sewing the side seams. I don't need one on the outside leg since I have no inlay there, but the principle is the same if I did have inlay. From here you can just move on with your trouser like nothing is different. Prepare our fly and put in the pockets until we get to sewing the outside leg seam. With my lack of inlay, I lay the seams together flush. I am putting them together to check the balance because I'm not bothering to baste the seam. I don't have any inlay on the waistline either, so I can line those up flush as well. Always with the front trouser on top. To the cuff again though, it'll be clearer on the inseam with the inlay, but here the two seams just follow each other. I am still making a 1 cm seam allowance. I am following the flare and then the inwards flare and then the final flare of the inlay, making those changes at the hem, the first 4 cm point and the second 4 cm point. Usually with the inlay we need to start at the hem where the same principle of following the flares we made applies, but I can start at the top, which is just easier. We press the seam open like normal and carry on until we get to sewing the inside leg. With the waistband on, we can line the front trouser up to the mark stitches of the back's inside leg. I'm checking the balance that both seams line up properly so that I know I can easily sew them together without basting. Back tacking at the top with our 1 cm seam allowance, doing the same as I was with the outside leg. You can see on the inlay the mark stitches at and below the hem because we put the marks on the points where we are changing direction. Like we've been doing, we're keeping the front trouser lined up to the mark stitches. Like I alluded to earlier with the inlay, we usually need to start one seam from the top and one from the hem. And like I said earlier, we need to start at the hem where the same principle of following the flares applies. Press the seam and press it open basically the same as normal. Then later pressing the center back crease as normal as well. And we can ignore everything until it comes time to put up the hem. As we usually would, we are measuring the inside leg. We can't make a slanted hem with a cuff like this, we would need a false cuff, but that's a later video. We are going to measure the hem like normal from the top of the inside leg seams, measuring our cuff width from the hem and our cuff width from there. 4 centimeters and 4 centimeters in this case, marking on both sides of the trouser. Marking the other leg as well before checking that they are both the same lengths. If you left more than 5 centimeters of inlay beyond the cuff, then you can mark that too and trim it off around there, either with pinking shears or overlock the excess off, rounding out the hem. There's really not a hard and fast order to do this, so however you feel the most comfortable doing the next few steps. I am folding the end of the trouser leg up in the middle chalk line, which will be the top of the cuff, and ironing it down before basting it in place. I am slip stitching it to hold the whole of the turnup together. Next, we're turning up the turnup along the hemline. With both layers of cloth snug together, turn it up on the first and third line. I am basting them together around the edge of the fabric to hold it up, pressing the crease into the trouser. A third base now on the inside, near the top of the inlay to hold it up while we finish it. When you get to finishing, it's just a case of sewing up the hem, however. To fasten the turnup, we want to make sure the side seams form a straight line. We will make a tack about halfway down the turnup on the inside just to hold it up. We could do another 2 on the front and back, but no need. We don't want them visible on the outside of the cuff, but inside is, you know, whatever.